Ritzy, good to see you of the band Joy Formidable. Thanks for coming on. It's great to have you on board.
You're very welcome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rare to kind of talk at this time of the year, or kind of because we've obviously finished a big tour at the end of last year, and I suppose we're kind of on some sort of a little bit more of a quiet time. So it's kind of normally I feel like I only chat to people when there's something going on, but it's like this is going to be a little bit more kind of peaceful and reflective, I think.
Yeah, the pressure's off. I mean, isn't that just the best feeling in the world when you're just all the pressure's off your shoulders when you like finish that last show?
It's yeah. I don't know. It's been an interesting time, hasn't it? I suppose. I mean, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to explain, I kind of have mixed feelings. I think sometimes you can end up like almost like the tour is like there's so much kind of variety and so much life and spontaneity in those moments that I kind of feel like sometimes it's like you get a little bit conditioned or addicted to it. So then when you do go home, you imagine, you have this ideal like, oh wow, I'm going to go back now and the tour's finished. I'm going to be able to do all these things that I haven't, that are much harder to kind of do on tour. But then you just kind of get back and you feel a little bit aimless for a while.
Oh yeah.
Like kind of shell shocked.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like stimulation withdrawals, I mean, I heard one of my friends refer to it as post-tour depression, which I was like, that's not real. And sure enough, it is. It's yeah, I guess it's like going off coffee cold turkey, like after you've drank coffee for a couple of years, and it's like, yeah, you feel the void for sure.
Yeah.
And I think there's like an addiction to camaraderie too, that's that you can't really get that level of camaraderie in many professions, where you're just around people that you love all the time, in close quarters. So
yeah, and you rely on them, in terms of all these other people. And also, I guess maybe it kind of gives you structure, which, sometimes that can be kind of reassuring, having like your days kind of, even though you feel like there's never enough time, there's very tight structure in a tour. It's kind of like, every day is, very regimented. So you kind of lusting after the opposite of that, which is like, oh, I want all this freedom and,
mm-hmm.
like movement and things. But then when you come home, it's like, wow, what do I like?
Are you pretty disciplined with structure in like your normal life?
I'd prefer to be less. I think that's maybe the other interesting things. It's I think there's an element of like you do, and I feel like I have to fight harder to just be a bit more in the moment and less planned and less organized. But I think that's, there's a lot of things lead to that in terms of there's a touring side of things, and I think these days, when you're kind of a small to medium-sized band, I think a lot of artists have ended up having to be very organized and adaptable and, kind of on top of things as well. So I think, I think some of that can end up feeding. Yeah, I have a lot of lists, but then, I kind of like, I like having a lot of lists, and then I have moments where I just want to burn them all and, and just kind of like, I'm kind of like, just want to be a bit more, that's my biggest fight with myself, is like trying to be more in the moment.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, challenge of being a human person,
Right. And which isn't easy to do on tour, which is probably another reason for sometimes like feeling like, that you kind of enjoy that lifestyle, because like you literally just have to go with whatever happens, in a lot of ways. It's regimented, but then it's also incredibly like there's a lot of unknown that ends up a lot of just having to go with it, and no show is the same, right? So it probably creates that a bit more of that better balance than maybe when you're just by yourself and having to seek that.
It's kind of like the built-in it gives you like built-in self-avoidance, it's great. You talk about being like a smaller medium-sized band. You guys seem pretty savvy on like the the business side of things, I just checked out your website, and you've got like a club where like super fans can kind of hang out, and there's like secret shows on there, or like kind of like a Patreon sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. Very similar to that. Only what I love about it is that it's not relying on any other kind of party, the party thing. It's like you can come direct to us, which I think is huge, because Patreon, I think it's like I said, I mean, I love the concept of every band having its own hub of, like where it can kind of create content, have another vehicle, I suppose, for, ours is a music club, but whatever it is that maybe you enjoy doing creatively out, even if it's outside of music. But I like the fact that it's not relying on somebody else to represent you, and I think that's one of the things that's like hard nowadays, isn't it? It's like you have a presence on all these different platforms, and with so many other artists, but like being able to kind of maybe keep your own stuff alive and your own version of things. It's nice to kind of be able to keep that a little bit more intact. And I think that's what we want to make by having it kind of more in-house. Like you come to us and it feels cool, like something that we do rather than it being on a platform.
So you were kind of ahead of that game, it seems.
Well, we certainly, during all the tour cancellations and COVID and that was a huge part of us adapting, because we've had the club since it predates COVID. We started it in 2018, but it started as a kind of like I said, we just realized that we were recording a lot more than how the traditional release engine is kind of allowing, right? So and that some of the stuff was quite different to maybe things that you'd maybe even put on an EP or an album. So we were like, well, it'd be nice to have almost like a vault of these somewhere that we could share, with people who are interested in those other slices of music. And that's kind of how it started. But we've built the tech over COVID. We thought, well, we ain't touring, everything's been cancelled, but we still want to put on shows and do different things. And I think that's really kind of where it evolved a lot, I suppose, over 2020 and 2020.
Do you enjoy the business side of music? Like what, and if so, like what are you good at, like outside of playing rock and roll?
I think honestly, I probably do like an element. I think I like a bit of the game there, but mostly the side that like where the power comes back to the artist. I like trying to push back against some of the things that have happened in the industry, like trying to find ways or trying to be smart with whatever element of the band, whether it's touring down to the music club, how we release things, trying to be as creative as possible, efficient, and not get kind of caught up in, I think it's been, like I said, a lot going on, I think, for artists, and a lot to kind of had to have a lot of change and a lot of adaptability. So I maybe like the game of like, of making sure that you don't, it's easy, I think, sometimes for bands to become kind of almost like slaves to everything. So it's nice to kind of feel like, that you've created, like I said, a business core that protects you.
Yes.
I mean, I think that it's more of a protective business side that I think I enjoyed kind of growing and talking to other bands as well, and in terms of how can we be as self-sufficient and empowered as possible. Because there's a lot going on and there's a lot to think about, and things change so quickly in life, even at the moment, and this industry just feels like things are like it's spooky moving. So how to keep
you got to be like ahead of the technological curve on these things. Like you had to get into leaking your stuff on Napster like a year before everyone else. You had to get ahead of Pirate Bay 6 months before everyone else, and you could like kind of hit these moments where it's like, holy shit, 1 million people just downloaded our single. But then the tech changes and the things that work change every 6 to 8 months to a year. So I mean, you talk about kind of like protecting yourself from being dependent on the music industry or other avenues. Like for us, I know like we've been building an email list from day one, like 11 years ago. So I'll shamelessly pass that thing around at the end of every show. Like it doesn't matter if it's like a tiny club, a house gig, or like a theater, you know, I don't care if the email list gets lost. If it makes it around a theater, like there's like 100 people that write their email on there. So, and it's been a cool way to like, you know, you, like you said, you have all the stuff you make over the years. You have these tour journals or these like little essays or demos or, you know, weird little videos, whatever it might be. It's like, it's all really nice stuff to, and you don't want to throw that in like the creative graveyard. You can like share that with people who really give a shit. And, I guess my question is this, like, what has kind of DIY music business wise, what has kind of moved the needle for you in having in steering your own ship, whether it be, you know, outside of the Patreon model and outside of maybe the email list type thing?
That has shifted the needle in terms of made us kind of change the most, or sorry.
Yeah, it just kind of helped you grow or get more visibility or exposure.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one, because kind of feels like you need everything kind of working together, you know, on some level. I mean, I kind of don't want to get it's a difficult one as well, because obviously you don't want this is another thing that I've been fighting against, because I do think that there's been a lot of change recently, and there's been like bands having to get savvier and, like you said, getting more into the tech side of things sometimes. And the one thing that I always kind of have to keep really forward is like to not it overtake the creativity, you know, because I think feels like there's moments sometimes when music is kind of becoming so secondary in some ways as well, to the story or the angle, or, you know, whatever the spin is as well, you know. And kind of like always, you know, I'm still a huge believer in like the actual music speaking for itself, even though sometimes it feels like, you know, that has shifted quite a lot. So I would say, you know, like I said, having our own platform to be as creative as possible has been huge, and being able to do lots of different things, because we've had a little dabble in doing some podcasting there, because there was stuff that we wanted to talk about. You know, we kind of there's like lots of different elements of our creativity that at least like can all kind of sit there. So, you know, like I said, being able to explore lots of different parts of yourself and your band and your own creativity, and being able to have them all in one place feels like a really good thing to me. But
yeah,
but that would be, you know.
Tell me about this. This might be a stock question, and that you've got a bunch of times in interviews, and I apologize, but tell me again the Dave Grohl connection. Did he like found one of your records and just got into it and kind of helped push you guys out there, or put you on tour? Remind me.
Yeah, I think he heard us on the radio, actually.
Cool.
I think he was in Seattle. I think it must have been KXP maybe that he heard us on as well. So yeah, just like the song, and I can't remember what he did now. I remember I was driving in a van, and we were driving through the Midwest, and there was a fucking massive tornado warning, and we were kind of worried that we were going to get kind of sucked into another world at the time. And then somebody mentioned it, or our phones started going off. But at the time, we were more concerned with actually making it to the next destination. So yeah, it was lovely though. I mean, I think that's a beautiful story of just like artists, you know, supporting each other. And if there is something that like you come across, or something that connects with you, to show it some love and share it. And
yeah.
you know, promote it or, you know, collaborate. And then obviously it followed through, you know, it wasn't just words. He actually, you know, we've been on 2 tours with the Foos, you know, so it actually turned into something beyond that as well, you know.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And that's cool because I think it's just, you know, you experience a lot of like tiny victories in life or as a band. And it's nice to hear that kind of stuff still happens. Like those things can happen. Like you can have those massive, like, holy shit kind of moments that I'm sure really change your life, you know, and change the trajectory of the band or the music and what's possible. So it's great. It's a very inspiring story. And, I mean, on any level, I feel like there's some sort of like, you know, you can build up karma in this game. You know, it's like, you know, you might not get anything in return from promoting a band you like, but I feel like there is something there that you know, karma is coming your way. And I think early on I struggled with, like, I would try to help out friends' bands or bands I really liked, set up shows for them, promote their shows, put them on shows, and there wasn't necessarily reciprocity there. And I think I had maybe like built that up in my mind. And I think you have to change your ethos, because you can't necessarily expect anything from anybody else, but I think if you do good deeds and you create positive inertia, I do actually think it comes back around, even if it's not like a direct thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I've been, you know, contemplating a lot recently, because being kind and compassionate and thoughtful is like a huge part of the bones of the band and the people that we are. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like, we care, and you know, we care about the people who come to our shows. You know, we kind of always feel like kind of I don't know, like that's the most important thing, that there's something like really truthful about everything that we do, that comes from a place of love and wanting to connect, wanting to create something that's meaningful, you know. And you know, coming from that as just being a norm and being in the industry, I mean, it's fascinating over 15 years of being in it, where you kind of have these little shakes of karma, because like, I mean, you know, the music industry is full of like it's full of the best and the worst in some ways, you know. And there's odd moments where I'm like, wow, it's almost, you know, it's like those parables of like, actually it's the most evil people that seem to do well in this industry, you know.
Well, what's that Hunter S. Thompson quote? I'm going to get it way wrong, but it's like, the music industry is full of vampires, swine, derelicts, blood-sucking savages that will eat your soul. Yeah. There's also a downside, or something like that, you know.
Totally. So sometimes, you know, I think it's like it's been an interesting test of that, but I mean, you know, that kind of ethic of how you want to kind of carry yourself and what it is that you want to put forward into the world is like really unshakable with us. But it does every so often. It's an interesting industry to sometimes bring that into question, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you talk about being a band 15 years or more. How is your like having done the lap around the world, you know, so many times and just been grinding for so long? How has your, you know, mental health been, and are you still just pumped to be doing it?
I think I'm feeling like a lot of other people maybe at the moment, which is, you know, like working through some things maybe post, you know, like I said, I think we've during COVID and all the stuff that maybe that threw into the mix of like maybe having to change and adapt and I don't know, whatever it was, maybe find ways of surviving, I suppose, like, you know, kind of this kind of survival instinct kind of kicked in of like, well, how, you know, what are we going to do if a huge part of your, you know, because let's all get honest, like a huge part of the income prior to COVID was in touring, you know. And I think I'm maybe feeling a little bit at the start of this year, maybe a little bit on the edge of being a bit tired out from that's just happened, because we went out on had like 2 years of doing like lots and lots of different things during COVID and having to kind of be on our feet. And then we went out and we went back into kind of the touring that we'd known before. We did a 77-day tour at the end of last year. And part of the changes, but part of the things that we've done as a band, you know, I tour manage as well. So I'm not just playing. So I think, you know, like I said,
why?
Because I'm sick of being ripped off.
Okay. You had some shady tour managers?
No, I'm just tired of everybody getting paid a lot more than the band by the end of the day.
Yeah,
which happens a lot, you know, when you start looking over things. So brought in some changes there, and you know, like I said, constantly I guess, you know, having experiences and trying things out, and then being able to go back to them and actually, you know, break them down a little bit. So, you know, there's, like I said, there's things that you kind of learn and there's things that you try out. But yeah, I think I'm kind of at the moment trying to just re-energize a little bit at the moment. I think like that's what I'm kind of using January for. Kind of feel like there's been like I've learned a lot.
Yeah, sure. Do you feel like you feel like 1 month can recharge you after doing 77 dates?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the question at the moment. Yeah, it's like I said, I kind of feel like it's an interesting little time, but I kind of feel like I'm, you know, it's kind of beautiful at the moment. I think I'm kind of processing a lot of things at the moment. I'm kind of intrigued to see what the rest of the year is going to look like. But I won't lie to you. I think maybe the last 12 months it's been quite a lot, and so at the moment the most peace is in playing and writing, you know. So that hasn't changed. Like that's where I'm going to try and make sense of things. So I'm excited by that. I'm excited that like that, you know, that is still where I'm kind of turning my, you know, it's still my therapy, if you like, is still, you know, picking up my guitar and playing. But I'm like I said, I kind of feel like I'm ready to shake things up in some ways, and I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, you have to. You absolutely have to. Like, I mean, you can. The coolest job in the world is playing music and playing in front of people, and you can do that till you're blue in the face. But you know, at a certain point, you kind of fall into a trance, and you're always grinding. You're always like figuring out what's the next move. You know, you don't want to fall behind. The world's moving fast. Everyone else is doing shit. I got to be doing shit. You know, so I think when everything kind of comes to a stiller moment, and you need a lot of space. You need space in your brain to create room for more ideas or the next project or the next plan or ways to, you know, personally evolve yourself or figure out shit that's wrong or stuff that's not working. And there's very few opportunities where there's enough downtime to create like the necessary amount of space in your brain to, you know, move forward, I think.
I think that's so right. I think I've maybe, like I said, part of what I've been thinking to myself is like, I know that I still want to create, you know, the thing that you ask yourself all these questions and the answers that come easy, like I still have to create. I still want to write. I actually want to try out some other things creatively as well this year. But I kind of feel like I'm maybe at a stage where I maybe want to be a bit more helpful to change. And I don't quite know what that means at the moment, you know, but I can see like artists, you know, like a lot of friends and bands that we know struggling, and they're wondering what to do next, and they're cancelling tours because they're not profitable, and, you know, they're not necessarily making that much money to support themselves through the releasing records, and parts of the industry seem behind, you know, parts of the industry don't even seem to have taken into account that there has been like a pandemic, you know. It's kind of, if anything, it's almost like use it as an opportunity to kind of make it even a little bit harder.
Inflation
for the source of the music. So yeah, I kind of feel like I want to get into, I don't know, maybe like doing something that is bigger than just Joy Formidable in terms of, you know, I don't know, in somehow using the 15 years that we have as a band that's always been kind of, you know, like moving and having to change and has been up and down and thrown about a lot, which is great because it's all kind of part of growing and, you know, getting stronger and being tenacious. But kind of feel like I'm maybe ready to put that out in another way as well. So still be, you know, still obviously be a creative entity, but maybe provide, I don't even know what it is yet, some sort of a support system, something that maybe makes people feel better or offers something, or, you know, as a support system. But I haven't quite figured out what it looks like, what it is, you know.
Yeah,
but
well, I'm sure you'll find it.
This calling of just wanting to do something. Something else at the moment, and seeing people maybe struggle and not wanting to just sit on the sidelines and, well, I'm making another album and I'm just going to kind of keep on being a part of parts of this system that aren't really serving anybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Aren't right at the moment. They need calling out, and you know, it's like it's also maybe not the time to stop partaking, but can you partake and also try and improve it? Can you partake and also try and change and add something else that's better to it? So that's kind of what I'm wrestling with.
Love it. Well, I love the optimism, and I think that's great. And I'm sure you'll find the groove there. Not to take things away from optimism, but you mentioned low points in the band, and I always love asking about like bands' low points where shit was just so wobbly. With like, are we gonna break up? Are we done? Or maybe it comes in the form of like a worst show or like a weirdest venue you've ever done it. Does anything come to mind in that arena?
Well, there's definitely been some right shitty moments. Well, we had some funny labels, you know, like there's one in particular. I won't mention them because like fucking legally things might be a bit iffy, but we've been, you know, we've had litigation from labels who have, you know, tried to trick us with different bits of small print and things that have been missed. Then they come after you, and there's moments like that when you're being sued, and you know, it kind of feels like you can end up taking it on board yourself because you're like, wow, how did I miss that? And then you're like, well, hold on, I'm not a fucking lawyer. And then and then you're kind of like, well, you know, the team missed it, and that kind of sometimes is a moment of feeling like kind of quite unprotected, you know, like.
You get the money back from the lawyer?
Well, we actually have, you know, I actually love our lawyers. Great lawyers, been with us right from the start, but we just entered into this, you know, into this thing at a chaotic time when, you know, maybe felt like we didn't have as many choices, or we felt like we had to go in a certain direction, and it's fine because it comes and it bites you in the ass, and you learn from it, and you know, you have that experience that, you know, because when you start off being a musician, I mean, like, I kind of think like, even though I was, you know, younger, I kind of think that I wasn't like stupid. I thought I kind of knew that it was going to be there was plenty of opportunities to get ripped off. You know,
tale as old as time.
When it actually happens, you're like, yeah, fuck. This is so cliched.
a rite of passage. Did you almost feel a little bit cool, like, oh, big bands get sued and now it's happening to me? Oh yeah.
It happened at such a funny time as well, because the whole record that it was, you know, it was kind of pertaining to was like that was probably one of the worst like kind of release experiences that we'd ever had as well. So it wasn't even like, you know, even if you've got all this fucking legal crap that's like kind of ruining things, it's but you've still kind of really enjoyed the experience of releasing that record. Like there was like literally nothing you kind of just wanted that whole chapter to just be over, so I think that's probably the most tested we felt as a band, because it drains, it can end up just draining you from a financial point of view, the practical side, but also like I think that's probably the most writer blockish I've ever felt.
Sure.
Kind of in the aftermath of that, and you go through all those different emotions of being angry and you just want to fire everybody. But
well, they have these rooms now where you can just, have you heard about this? If you're like really pissed off, you can like go like pay like $50 and go to these rooms, and they just give you like a Louisville Slugger and you just smash old computers and shit. Like they give you a helmet and a Louisville Slugger and an axe, and you just go postal on old pieces of trash, and people like pay money for this. It's like this cathartic new age experience. So maybe
a lot in guitars. If I had had that as a resource, then I wouldn't have lost so many guitars on stage.
There it is. Maybe we create a new sidearm of that business where you just go into a mock office and you just start firing people at will. They like plant actors there, and you can pay more for more actors or more people you can fire. And I think that could be big. Could be something.
That sounds good.
Do you smash guitars on stage still?
I mean, it kind of depends what kind of day.
How many career guitars have you smashed? Not judging. I think it's great,
The thing is it, like you kind of got to not be hard on yourself, because if it happens, it happens, I mean, I've never gone into a show going, right, I'm gonna, it's gonna be this guitar smash today, like it's it's always unfortunately been probably more in line with what you just said was an option for when shit's going bad. Like it's been a good cathartic thing sometimes. Having just gets expensive, and it's hard for the next show when you're playing with a hole in your amp. I'm like, damn, when am I going to learn?
Yeah, it looked so cool on TV when Cobain did it. Yeah. I wonder who was the first person to do that. It was probably some obscure fella that doesn't get the credit,
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And it's funny, I would never, when I first started playing music and writing songs, I would never have thought that I'd have the potential to be a guitar smasher.
I love that, because you're such like a sweet, soft-spoken, calming presence, and then you just like go postal on stage. It's great.
This industry is frustrating sometimes, it just is, but it's kind of, like I said, it's I think it started off as well. I really like the sound of because we used to have, we still have I used to have the gong. We have a huge gong. I don't know how many feet across it is, but it's not a tiny one, it's like a huge, like orchestral sized gong. Nice. And it lives behind Matt now. They took it away from me because it used to live behind me. And I think one of the like I said, it started from quite a sonic point of view, because I realized how great a guitar smashing into a gong actually sounded. It's like, wow, this is really, I really.
Oh, so you smashed the guitar? Okay, nice.
Yeah. And
you might have been the first person to ever do that, so props.
Yeah. And then they took it away from me, and then anything was, then you're in the habit of trying to find another great.
You turn around, there's just like a man standing there, and it's the tour manager. Oh, sorry, I got a tour manage now. Yeah, actually, that was funny, because that was my next question. I was going to ask you: is there like a little stunt you like to incorporate in your shows outside of actually playing songs and music? The gong stunt. Anything else work over the years? Maybe it was planned, maybe it wasn't.
Stunt. No, you see, that's the thing. There's not been a lot of planning with the shows. There's been some extremely strange moments in shows where we had a raffle in the middle of a show once, and let's just say there was no raffle tickets.
That's awesome.
We didn't go into that show. We were I don't think we'd slept for, especially Ridgeon and I, because we've been doing promo, we'd not slept for about 2 or 3 days. Like, we were down to about 4 hours for 3 shows or something like that we'd had. So I think we were just nuts, you know, like when you start getting that tired, like
hallucinations. Oh yeah,
and shit starts happening.
Well, we got I can't remember how it happened, but there was like, we were like at the grocery store, and then I just bought this melon knowing we couldn't eat it because we didn't have like a knife in the van to like cut it up and eat it. So we ended up just all signing the melon or cantaloupe, and then we auctioned off the melon on stage and made an extra $28.
Totally. It's great. I like the creativity.
You know, I don't know. Like, I get these like really dumb, weird ideas, and I just have to do them. And I don't know if it's always a good look for us, because like, I love clowning around and you want people to take you seriously, you know? So I've honestly had to tone down the clowning around over the years. But like, the first band I ever loved as a kid was Bare Naked Ladies. So I was like, this band's weird and goofy. I was like, I loved them. So yeah, we're always thinking of just like kooky stuff to do. And fortunately, a lot of it never manifests.
Well, that's it. I mean, but I think that's the heart of a really great a really good relationship, you know, in terms of within your band, because we feel exactly the same. I think we've relied on having a lot of humor and fun, and we've got a really goofy side for sure, you know, like we're mischievous with each other. We like to we come up with all like exactly the same. We like to kind of think of funny things.
Any good tour pranks?
Well, there's, you know, I don't know. My horrible one is I like, you know, sometimes like waking people up when they're trying to sleep in different ways, you know.
Classic.
I'm sure there's a few.
Yeah, you forget I feel like as a tour goes, the humor within the van or the bus gets just weirder and weirder and weirder, and sometimes more fucked up. And then you realize, you go out in the world after, and you're like making some of the same jokes, and like nobody's laughing. You know, it's oh, I gotta dial it back. I've lost my barometer for reality. So what's next? What's next for you, Ritzy? Have you are you going to you taken any trips to any far out places? Have you played any like weird far away lands you never thought you'd get to? Oh
yeah, absolutely. I think that's the one thing that has just been beautiful about the career that we've had. We've been to, I never would have expected being, you know, when we started the band in North Wales, I never would have expected to get all over the place playing music. I was just thinking this morning, actually, I was like, I was thinking, I really want to go back to India, which probably,
I've never been.
Yeah, because I'm reading a book at the moment as well that's set in India, and I was thinking, wow, you know, sometimes you don't even like, you know, when you're in it, you don't look back, and it's not that you don't enjoy the moment, that thing we were talking about, enjoying the moment, but then, you know, you don't, like, sometimes I don't look back enough and say like, oh, you know, wow, I actually got to do that. You know, as a band, we got to go and play in India.
Oh, you played in India as a band?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. What was that like?
No, it was magical. It was, I didn't go into it with any expectations. I didn't know what it would be like. Just kind of went into it with an open heart and just loved it. Played a couple of shows, got to be a tourist for a little while, got to visit an elephant sanctuary and walk with elephants, which is just like I don't know, just like the most beautiful once in a lifetime kind of moment, right?
Wow.
So yeah, I was just thinking like this morning, I was like, oh, I wonder how the whole, you know, how shows are in India at the moment, because we were there in 2018 before, you know, I wonder what it's been like in terms of having music over there or people traveling. I wonder if it's changed since the pandemic, whether or not there's still, you know, promoters and venues and that. So I was like,
there is like an indie rock circuit over there, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I actually made a little note of it this morning. I was like, check to see if there's a chance to go back, you know. So
what's the infrastructure like there? how does it all work? What, you find one promoter, he picks you up from the airport and drives you around, arranges the gear?
Yeah, pretty much. We had a lovely worked with a great promoter who put on the shows, and there was a festival as well. It was kind of based in this around this festival. But yeah, the best bit of that was we obviously had read a bit about India and the trains, and the three of us, we really wanted to go and have a train ride. So we kind of, organized it, figured out where we were gonna. So we had done the shows, and we were gonna store our gear, and then we were gonna just jump on this train. And when they got wind of our plans, they really wouldn't let us, and they booked us a driver for like the extra 3 days that we were there. They were like, we really don't want you to go on Indian trails, which just. So it was really kind, and obviously, and the guy turned up. So instead of us going to the airport, going to the train station, a guy just turned up and he said, actually, you're not going to the train station. I'm driving you around for the next 3 days. So, you know what I mean? There was no resistance, but kind of made me even more intrigued to go on an Indian train. So.
Do it, yeah. Actually, my tour manager, Danimal, and I, we went on a train in Sri Lanka. We got flown down to play the 2 shows at a surf camp at the bottom of Sri Lanka. And we traveled around the country on this train. It was crazy. It was crazy, Ritzy, because there's like people just like smash on there. It's like at capacity times 4, and you're like standing up, like you feel people like breathing on your neck. There's no doors on the where the doors would be. So the primo seat is you want to sit like on the floor by the open air door, because you can actually get breathable air. So that was like the prime spot. But you look out the window and there's like people hanging off the side of the train to like get some air or get some freedom. But it really it's and it's probably not like that every time, but it was a hell of a test to mental fortitude, having just 4, and there's moms coming on at all the stops, and they're like selling food and drinks and bags of soda, just bags of soda with no ice, with a straw, just a bag of soda. Yeah, but it was a trip. I recommend it highly.
Yeah, it sounds like an experience. So maybe when we go back, hopefully we can go back at some point and take another trip. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people, I had friends that had been to India, and some of them had loved it, and some of them were like, I never need to go back there again. But I definitely fell into the camp of like, actually, this place, I think it just kind of keeps you on your toes. It probably is another example of, you kind of feel like, I don't know, it kind of feels like every day is a test in some way about your, feeling very alive and feeling like maybe, all you have to do is get in a car in India and it feels like maybe you're not going to be alive for very long.
Yeah, totally.
So it kind of, it raises all that, that intensity of like actually feeling how fragile sometimes the human state is, which it can either turn you on and it makes life feel even more kind of beautiful, or it can scare the shit out of you. But
it certainly seems like the hyperstimulation mecca of the world. It's like, I don't know if it gets more. I've never been, but from all the intel I've gathered, it doesn't get more intense and challenging than traveling around India. So yeah, get it on the bucket list. And the colors and the pastels. It's just explosive. It's you ever seen Darjeeling Limited, the Wes Anderson movie?
Oh, I haven't actually.
What? No.
I know.
Oh man, I wish I was you. You get to see this movie for the first time. You're gonna love it. Yeah, it's kind of exact. It's these 3 brothers get together, and they've been estranged from each other, but they get together for a funeral. This weird funeral. I think I can't remember the context, but anyway, it's they're all traveling on this train together, and it's weird, and it's just encapsulates really dry, dark comedy, as well as just kind of that travel nomadism culture of riding trains in India. So this would be the movie I think you're gonna be into for the year.
I've been watching some movies this month. I've been having movie times. Yeah, sounds nice.
Well, hey, we've been going a good 46 and a half minutes. Any particular tunes, or is there a good single we could play at the end of the episode?
Well, I suppose that's the I wouldn't mind getting something over to you actually, because we just did we just did a track for our music club, and we haven't really shared it yet properly, and it might be quite nice for you to do that. But
yeah, let's do that. Cool.
I don't know if you were ever a fan of Willie DeVille, and he was in a band called Mink DeVille as well in the 70s and 80s, and he's like a real favorite artist of mine and very underrated, and he's just got a beautiful voice. So we covered one of his tracks. So maybe you could give that a spin as something.
Let's do that. That's cool. Yeah, fire it over. We'll do it up.
Something very new and something that, you know, is a bit more music club related, which would be nice. So,
sweet. Yeah. Well, thanks, Ritzy. You're a great soul, and it was great to riff with you here. Hope to see you in real life in London someday, or maybe you'll come tour in Wisconsin.
Yeah, is that where you're based at the moment? Is that where you are now, in Wisconsin?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Right. I bet it's fucking freezing there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean the sidewalk now is it's a giant snow cone, so it's all slushy slush. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty Arctic. It's basically Canada. It's pretty close.
Totally. It's beautiful though. I like Milwaukee. It's a cool city. You have what's the name of the There's a couple of festivals in Milwaukee, isn't there, in the summer?
Summerfest is the big one. It's like 11 stages over 12 days. It's huge. Yeah. But yeah, Milwaukee kicks ass.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you around there, or London.
Sounds good, Ritzy. Much love, much respect. We'll see you down the road.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Brett.